Thanks, everybody, and good morning. Let me just say, based on the introductions, that you're probably all scratching your head as far as what dial-up may be whenever you heard that mentioned here, and I think we're dating ourselves, James, but we'll talk about that a little later. We're extremely excited to be here today on behalf of James and myself. I will tell you that it's great to be back on campus. As Sylvester said, we've enjoyed a long-standing partnership with Elizabethtown College, and I'm thrilled to have an actual Blue Jay on my team at Target in my Philadelphia office. So we're Blue Jay proud, and certainly looking forward to continuing that partnership and growing and expanding as time goes on. We have a lot of information to cover today relating to our topic of digital marketing and really what is digital marketing. So I would encourage you to keep up. We're going to be going through this pretty quickly. The video that I'll be showing you clips pretty well. A lot of great information, but just to give you a heads up there. So I want to start out today by asking the question to each of you, what is digital marketing? And how does it impact your life in particular? This is we're all about collaboration at Target Media, so please want to have input from the crowd today.
Here.
Yeah.
Advertising on social media and presenting a good image for your company.
Yeah. Social media is one of the fastest growing areas within digital, and James will be highlighting that in greater detail here in a little bit. Anybody else?
I actually managed a Facebook page and was the head of a ad campaign through Facebook's advertising network. And we saw 500% gains in viewership from around the Commonwealth area. 500% gains. It's a great figure, and congratulations. It's a great accomplishment. Facebook, certainly another great platform there. The world of digital is constantly evolving, and that's the message we want to bring to you today, and how that's affecting our lives on a daily basis. One of the things I want to show you to start off here, I'm a very visual kind of person. I have a video, an SAS video, that I reference very often in terms of particularly outlining what is digital marketing and how does it impact us. So I'm going to start out by showing this and then go from there. So if this works, we'll...
Digital marketing is the promotion of products or brands via electronic media. By using digital marketing channels and methods, you can analyze your marketing campaigns to understand what is working and what isn't, typically in real time. While the internet is the channel most closely associated with digital marketing, other channels are important. Digital media is everywhere. Consumers can access information wherever, whenever, and however they want it, and they are no longer influenced by just what you say about your brand. In fact, consumers are more likely to be influenced by what others say about your brand. The reality is that people prefer brands that they can trust, companies that know them, communications that are personalized and relevant, and offers that are tailored to their anticipated needs and preferences. Digital marketing can help you deliver all that, but there are three main challenges to overcome. The proliferation of digital channels. Consumers use multiple channels and a variety of digital devices with different protocols, specifications, and interfaces. This makes it hard to manage digital marketing efforts. Competition is intensifying. That's because digital channels are relatively cost-effective compared with traditional media, such as print, making them within reach of practically every business. Exploding data volumes. When consumers use digital channels, they leave behind a huge trail of data. Unfortunately, digital data is often not integrated with data from operations and business activities. As a result, many businesses struggle to find the right data for making the best strategic and tactical decisions. Given these challenges, what does it take to get digital marketing right? It comes down to three actions. Managing complex customer relationships across channels, both digital and traditional. Responding to and initiating dynamic customer interactions, and extracting value from big data to make better decisions faster. Knowing your customers is not enough. You must know them better than anybody else, so so you can communicate with them where, when, and how they are most receptive to your message. To do that successfully, you need a consolidated view of customer preferences and expectations across all channels, not just digital. With this information, you can create consistent, coordinated customer experiences that will move customers along in their buying cycle. The speed and immediacy of digital, combined with the power of advanced analytics, make it possible to measure, monitor, and test campaign performance on the fly to learn what works and doesn't work. This helps you improve the customer experience and marketing ROI. Too often, marketers can't access or make use of all the data necessary to get the best insights. They are often limited to data subsets or samples, which compromises analytic accuracy. To make the best decisions, you need access to all customer data and marketing data to deliver more real-time, complete customer experiences in an agile, cost-efficient way.
Oh, I hit the wrong button. You want to turn it off.
We're not technology experts. We're digital, but we're challenged with technology here. So the purpose of that video was to really give you an idea as far as where we're at from a business perspective. I continue to hear clients, companies asking for, give me data, give me information that I can use to make informed decisions on how my marketing campaigns are working for me. The beauty of that is we can give them a lot of data. The challenge is whether or not they know how to interpret the data. And that's one of the big challenges that businesses are facing. And as we see, one of the biggest opportunities ahead in terms of where we're going from the digital space, which again, James will,
that button
thank you.
And that button.
Thank you, sir. And James will get into that a little bit more in detail in a little bit here. I want to just touch on what I'm calling digital differentiators for smart businesses moving forward. And you can see the center of this is focused on our core digital marketing strategy, looking at how we effectively optimize engagement. And from a standpoint of SEO, search engine optimization, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, how do we effectively engage consumers to get them to do what we want them to do? Another aspect is how do we get our customers to look for our messages? There's organic searches, which we look at and say that's more of a brand aspect. Have them search us out organically through Google or other search engine platforms out there. But how do we get that to stand out, and how do we position that for our customers to engage with us? Content highlighting expertise, making sure content is on track and making sure that it is engaging. That's another huge opportunity area that we see with businesses, making sure their content is up to where it needs to be. And again, James will elaborate on that in a little bit. Brand experience and being competitive. You know, what do we want consumers to experience with our brand? One of the things that we like to focus on at Target Media and Target Digital is the fact that we are strategists. We not only buy media, both traditional and digital, but the core of what we do is having a strategy and knowing why we're employing the digital channels or the traditional media channels that we're employing based on the dollars that we're investing for our clients and why that's going to provide the highest ROI for them in the end. So we want to make sure strategy is the cornerstone of what we're doing here. How do we motivate people to respond? That's another key challenge within the digital space, and we like to say that, you know, we can get the message out into the channels, the media channels that will engage best and deliver the target demographics best, but it's important to have that engaging creative as well, which we rely on from other experts within that creative field. So it's hand in hand in terms of the full picture. And again, I talked about attracting organic traffic. So this is just a great visual in terms of looking at a digital marketing strategy and how each of the components come into play in putting together a highly effective and efficient strategy overall. Other differentiators, we look at effectively employing SEO to attract organic traffic. I talked about that a little earlier. Certainly standing out, you want to be in that first page of Google or your search engine that you're employing here. Our goal was to have you in the top 4 within that first page, and that's an art in itself in terms of how do we help our clients get to that point and make sure that they're showing up on that page. It's very unlikely that 3-4 pages deep, and you can relate to this from your own personal experiences, that you're going to continue to search out. Normally, a consumer or a prospect will go 2-3 in and basically end their search. So aside from the ads at the top, we like to be right there in the, as we call it, the boardwalk area, and be highly dominant in terms of engagement on SEO. Email is another way to engage consumers, and one that we have found very, very effective and efficient. I know we're all, from a business standpoint, inundated with emails on a daily basis, but certainly from a marketing tactic, we have seen this work very well as part of an overall strategy, both from a traditional, incorporating traditional and digital into it. I also just want to add really quick that an evolution is taking place in our industry and within Target in particular, which I'm really excited about. And the fact that we're still focusing on traditional media channels. TV, radio, direct mail, billboards will be there, will always be there. But the evolution is taking place where that used to be a driver conversation in terms of putting together a marketing strategy. It's now digital that is becoming the lead conversation and supporting with traditional measures. So we've seen that flip-flop over the last 2.5, 3 years here, and digital has now become the largest part of our business, which I think none of us are surprised at, but it just put in perspective as far as how digital has evolved to where it is today and the importance of it. And from a demonstrable standpoint, it's great to be able to provide those analytics, those results to clients to see how their advertising and marketing is paying off. Social media, we talked about, certainly the success there. 2 great examples early on and how that works. Really keeps you out in the forefront, gives you that competitive advantage, that touch point from a social standpoint, and part of that mix that we like to refer to as having a diversified strategy. So when we look at a plan, we'll look at what specific traditional components we want to employ, as well as digital components, and making sure that we're well covered in both, of course given the budget to do so, but employing those channels that best deliver the target audience from a campaign standpoint. Successful companies create content that highlights their success, their unique advantages, the what's in it for me mentality from a consumer standpoint. Consumers want something that's of value to them. So from a content standpoint, we need to position that message for the what's in it for me. What are we delivering to consumers, to our prospects, through our products or services to help them in their search as well. So this is important in terms of, and a point that is often overlooked from a business standpoint in general. So I want to really emphasize and highlight the content aspect of it. Customers are staying connected to many marketing messages. You know, I was reminded last night in the driving rain of how dependent I am on my cell phone as I'm running with my headphones in and have 2 golden retrievers, my 2 golden retrievers with me, and running in the rain, and I'm thinking, this probably isn't the most safest kind of situation to be using my cell phone in, but it's almost like we don't even think about it anymore, and it just really becomes a way of life for us, and I think each of you can relate to that in terms of what kind of role that plays in each of your lives. I mean, that's pretty much your world.
We see that. We see from a millennial standpoint, it's right here. It's right to the platforms, you know, with cellular, iPads, PCs, and really focused on that. So we're looking at those types of platforms in terms of targeting specific age groups such as yourself and the millennials. So I think what's the latest number in terms of how many times a day someone references their smartphone?
Oh God,
it's an incredible number. Hundreds and hundreds of times a day, but we really don't think about it. You know, it's become second nature for us. But if you would just sit back and really observe someone, you'd be amazed at how many times and how dependent we are on smartphones and our devices today. And it's a great resource that I will say that would have been nice to have 20 years ago. Unfortunately, we basically had the carry phones, bag phones that were first launched. So we've come a long way in terms of portability and dependability. And then how do we optimize the message and generate engagement with our customers? Again, getting back to that unique selling point. What are consumers looking for? How do we position it? And how do we best engage them moving forward to act upon using our product services, giving the opportunity to further educate them on what we're offering? I want to just end with some key questions to consider, and I've listed them here just as a point of reference. And I think it's important not only from you looking at yourself as students and preparing yourself to get into the business world, or whatever you choose to do after you graduate, but positioning yourself in a way of staying competitive. And this is something we look at for our clients and what's ahead. So the first one being, what are your competitive advantages today and how could rapidly growing digital technologies disrupt them? I think you really have to take a close look at what's ahead. We're already hearing some incredible news about new apps that we're being proactive in researching for clients in terms of what's out there. The new iPhones were just announced this week, which I've heard were subpar in terms of the response, but you know, they're always coming out with a bigger, better version here, and you know, that's certainly exciting in terms of the technology and where we're going from how digital technologies are changing. Secondly, what major challenges are we going to be facing, and how do we look at exponential technologies helping to solve them? What's ahead? What are the opportunities out there? Things that we in the digital world are constantly thinking about, how we're adapting, how we're relating to that. What products and services can be digitized over time, and what opportunities does this create for you from a competitive standpoint? Again, another key area to think about, positioning yourself, positioning your product, your services, and standing out above the competition from a digital specific standpoint, which is going to be key. And lastly, what technologies hold the most promise, and what are you doing to examine the potential in order to be more productive? We like to take the approach at Target in terms of being proactive and looking out what's ahead. Not only what do we currently have, but what's ahead for our clients that we need to be aware of, to be able to educate them. They're looking to us as industry experts, and we stay up to date as far as what is happening development-wise, things that they need to take into consideration to remain competitive in the marketplaces that they're in and the industries that they're in. So this kind of, I talked about collaboration and proactive strategy up front is critical as we look forward here and moving ahead. We've been very fortunate at Target to have incredible growth over the years, and personally I think the exciting thing for me looking ahead here is the digital space and how that's going to continue to drive our business, drive our clients' businesses, and at the end of the day provide us with huge advantages that we can take to market and be able to offer to our clients to help them
not only succeed now, but also succeed in the future. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to James Clark, our digital geek in residence, as he likes to be referred to, who is going to take a little bit deeper dive for you here today. Thank you.
Oh, don't. I'm going to show you a video too. I'm going to try to broaden this a little bit initially and kind of say, you know, John's talking about digital marketing and advertising, and that's what I do, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I think digital marketing and advertising is what it is today because of the way it impacts our lives and the way we live those lives, the way it impacts every aspect of every business. And then ultimately, I come with a very specific, pointed message to each and every one of you for where you are in your career right now. You'll take that for what it's worth. I'll skip this video. I'll show you this one. Remember the statistic about the goldfish. There's a quiz. Eric Qualman's video. He's a lecturer and author. The title of the series is called Socialnomics. It's like economics, but with social in front of it. He updates these roughly every quarter with new statistics. That one's just a couple months old. Another sort of way to think about why mobile, social, digital technologies are so critical in the world today and to business is the unbelievable growth rates. The one I like to point out is that email usage worldwide grew 7.3% last year. I'm 44 years old. Email is older than I am. And it's considered the passé grandfather of digital technologies. And it grew at a pace that's faster than the growth rate of just about any company that you can think of or might ultimately go to work for. It continues to penetrate the lives we live in more and more and more in more diverse and interesting ways. One of the stories that really amazed me not all that long ago, I was out in Spokane, Washington in the morning, driving into to do a presentation not totally dissimilar from this one, listening to a story on the radio about how the Spokane City Council, now Spokane, Washington is almost Idaho. It's not Seattle. It's not some hippy-dippy San Francisco liberal community. The Spokane City Council had just allocated $200,000 of taxpayer money to provide free Wi-Fi for the homeless. Why? Maybe it's obvious to you. Maybe it's not. Even the homeless carry around Wi-Fi connected smartphones. And when the city government needs to get in touch with the homeless about availability in shelters, severe weather, or anything else, the most efficient way to reach the homeless is on smartphone. Many of you in this community have probably heard of a website called Farmers Only. Yeah. Farmers Only is a dating network for farmers. All right, whatever. Deadmeat.com, which really exists, by the way, is a dating network for funeral professionals. Turns out that they have a rather unique lifestyle. They like to date each other. The point really being, no matter who you are, or what you do, or where you live, or how old you are, digital, mobile, and social technologies are integrating themselves deeper and deeper into the fabric of how all of us do everything. It's not just business. This is how we live our lives. As John was alluding to, our smartphones have attached themselves to us to such a great degree that one of the next frontiers in digital technology is what you hear about as called wearables. From Google Glass to the iPhone watch to all the different ways that technology companies can literally and figuratively embed that technology directly into us. 2 Mondays ago, Facebook announced that 1 billion people, over 1/7 of the world's population, had all used Facebook on that one day. And that doesn't even count Instagram, WhatsApp, and all the other applications that make up part of Facebook's portfolio. The average American under 35 spends 2 hours a day on Facebook alone. Now, you guys probably don't use it. Probably on Yik Yak or some other thing. As I know, one of Facebook's risk factors that you can read about in their 10K, which is the paperwork they have to provide to the public stock markets about their risks. One of the risks that Facebook talks about that's amazing to geezers like John and I is that they know they've lost the under 25 crowd. But why has Facebook lost the under 25 crowd? You probably know the answer better than I do, but the answer more often than not that we hear is because you don't want to be on a social network where your parents are, and your grandparents, and your uncles, and your bosses, and your teachers. And you saw in the video that the fastest growing demographic on Twitter and on Facebook is 55+ females. Why are they joining Facebook? Well, to see the pictures of their grandkids, of course. But you don't want to be out there. You don't. But the fact that you don't want to be on Facebook is not actually a ding at Facebook at all. What that really is a testament to how deeply Facebook has penetrated the adult culture. One of the things that amazes me in this space is what other people are saying about businesses. What's called the wisdom of the crowd has become so deeply embedded in how we live our lives. My wife and I have 2-year-old twins. We buy an amazing amount of stuff for them. We buy it all on Amazon, not surprisingly. How do we decide what to buy? We buy the products that have the highest number of positive ratings and reviews from a bunch of strangers. I don't know who they are, but they tell me that's the best diaper, I'm buying that diaper. And uniformly, they're right. We have friends come visit us. I live in a little community called Park Slope in Brooklyn in New York City. And so anyone comes to visit us, they say they want to go to Thai food. All right, so you go on Yelp. Thai food, Park Slope. The restaurant that has the highest number of positive ratings and reviews, you just go. We take the ability to sort of anonymously ask the world about what to buy and where to go and what to do absolutely and totally for granted. One of the things that was really fascinating to me in that video is the idea that more than 50% of the world's population is under 30. So, first question there is like, well, so what? You've probably all seen videos like this, which were amazing to old people like me when we first started seeing them a couple of years ago. This is a toddler interacting with a flat screen TV as though it were an iPad. He just assumes that it's a touchscreen, right? Because all of the world is a touchscreen. My 2-year-old toddlers have their own iPhones. They don't have service, and all they can do is play around with a couple of apps. But at 2 years old, they already know how to use these things. Of course, as you'll see at the end of the video when the mother shows her remote control, there's nothing touchscreen about that TV. Everything you saw there was being done by the mother with remote control, but the kid doesn't know that. But maybe more interestingly is this video.
I'm going to code in 3rd grade. Go again, you will say, how about you?
That's Zach. He's my business partner's 9-year-old son. Zach's fluent in 2 programming languages. He's 9 years old. He's been writing code for 3 years. He's also fluent in Mandarin Chinese. This is what it means when you think about, okay, more than half of the world's population is under 30. This is who you're competing against. My goal is to make sure, I'm probably not going to teach my kids Chinese. I might teach them Russian. But my goal is to make sure that my kids are better programmers earlier than Zach is. I'm a dinosaur, the digital guy. There will never be more people like me. And the reason there will never be more people like me is Zach. My background in a nutshell, my mom was the first woman ever to get a master's degree in computer science in the state of New York, 1969. Now, churn them out by the thousands. My father worked on mainframe computers at IBM. They decided to send him out to what's now called the Silicon Valley to go head up or be one of the first pioneers at a research laboratory they put in San Jose, where my mom was working on, I mean, you probably can't even believe this, but there was a time when ATMs didn't exist, when you had to walk into a bank and actually interact with a teller to get money. My mom was working on that system. My dad was working on the system that allowed you to buy airline tickets. Again, you used to have to go meet a travel agent. Some travel agent would call up the airline. No. This is what people were doing back in the 70s when the Silicon Valley was an apple orchard. I think Sylvester might have mentioned this on the first day of summer vacation in 1982. When I was 11 years old, my dad brought home this IBM PC Junior. Big, giant computer, like this big, with the processing power of a clicker, probably less. And said to me, you know what, this is what you're going to do over the summer. You're not going to wash my car, you're not going to mow the lawn, you're not going to do dishes, you're going to figure out how to use this machine to teach your little sister, I have a little sister who's 4 years younger than I am, how to write multiplication tables. It took me the entire summer to do it. Took 7 5-inch floppy disks to store the program that was written in BASIC, but I got there. Ultimately fell into a job at a little company called AOL before it was AOL. Stayed there for almost 13 years until I was able to run a $250 million business. At the time I finally left AOL, a guy named Bob Pittman, who's the CEO of Clear Channel now, who was sort of one of my idols at AOL, asked me to come and help his collection of TV companies who were really the genesis of trying to figure out what does it mean that consumers now expect to get their news and information on their smartphones, and they expect to interact with news organizations, and how is it that all their advertisers are now spending more money on digital than on TV? That was a real problem in 2010. It's really not anymore. Coming out of that, I founded a consultancy to help TV companies, radio companies, newspaper companies, traditional agencies, chambers of commerce, anybody who's focused on helping businesses grow and succeed. And I've been pretty successful and pretty lucky, but this is my business. It's a freckle on the elbow of this industry. And this industry is growing so rapidly, it's unbelievable. And this is just the digital advertising and marketing portion of the business, which is a freckle on the industry of the larger digital industry. When I was 10 years ago, 8 years ago, a digitally literate potential employee, somebody who wanted a white-collar, potentially management track job at a real company, oh yeah, I know how to use Word and PowerPoint and Excel and Outlook or email. Today's day and age, if you don't show up with the basic building blocks of, yeah, I know how to use Photoshop, I have basic design skills, at least the top of what a LAMP stack is, if you don't know what that is, Linux and Apache are the programming foundations of essentially all of the digital world. PHP and MySQL are tools that would allow you to build a website. If you don't have a proven track record of expressing yourself on a platform like Tumblr with the ability to write and attract an audience, if you don't understand how tools like Slack have made email completely and utterly irrelevant in the workforce today, you're at a real disservice competing for the types of jobs that my guess is you probably want. And the question is why? I think this is at least the most interesting question to me. Why is all of this happening? And a lot of times people get caught up in the technology. It's not about the technology. A TV antenna is a vastly superior way to distribute a TV signal into a home. TV antennas have been receiving, or been capable of receiving, HD quality signals for 75 years, before TVs were capable of displaying them. everything that's happening in the digital world right now, it's not about a superior technology. It's not about that at all. I'll give you a couple other examples from like way back in the primordial ooze. Anybody in the room ever even heard of Napster? All right, I've got some hands. It's actually still in existence today. It's a legit business. Napster was sort of the canary in the coal mine of the digital revolution way back in the 90s, when people started using Napster and other apps like BearShare and the like to digitally download for free and illegally music. It revolutionized the music industry. When I was your age, even younger than that, I remember in high school going into Tower Records and buying Under a Blood Red Sky, a live album by U2. I still know most of the words to those songs. Tower Records and record stores were an institution for kids in high school. It's like it's where you went. It's where the only way you could buy music. The idea of a record store today is absurd. And then along came iTunes, and now along has come Spotify. What's interesting, though, is the reason that Napster became so popular, that iTunes became popular, that Spotify is now probably and things like it are probably putting iTunes out of business, has nothing to do with the technology. The quality of the product is actually far lower. What you could hear on iTunes on your iPhone is far higher quality than what you can get on Spotify. But what you got on a CD is far higher quality than that. What you got on a record, an LP, from a digital sound quality is actually higher quality than that. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that the music industry, until the late 90s, was founded on a premise that you had to buy a compact disc. You had to buy 10 or 12 or 14 songs, an hour of music for 15 bucks when people only wanted one song. And that has revolutionized the industry. But it's also destroyed the music industry. Because artists used to be able to count on getting 15 bucks a pop for an album. Now they're lucky if they get a buck. They're lucky if they get a penny from Spotify. What Netflix did to Blockbuster and then to itself, right, when they realized, hey, the idea of going into a store and taking home a videotape, if you even know what a videotape is sort of absurd. Netflix, if you even can remember this far into history, Netflix started out as a business that would send you DVDs in the mail. And even they realized, oh, this is stupid. What we really ought to be doing is streaming content to people on their TVs. The quality of the content you get on Netflix, in terms of the visual quality, is not nearly what it is over a TV antenna. The buffering, all the annoyance of it, you can't watch a lot of the shows that you want to watch. But what they realized is that people don't want to watch the lineup of channels that some network has said you can watch. The idea that you would tune in to Breaking Bad on a Sunday night, right, and you would watch one episode, and that you would be willing to let them insert 2.5 minutes of commercials every 8 minutes, and then when the episode ended, that you couldn't just watch another one and another one, that's the way we used to live, believe it or not. Netflix realized, hey, people are willing to pay for this stuff. They don't mind that it's not free, but they want to be able to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it. Even if it's a little lower quality, even if there's some buffering, even if there are some issues, even if sometimes you can't find all of your shows. Uber, at least a modern example, Uber is thought of as a technology company. And it kind of sort of is. Not all that long ago, the mayor of New York City decided that he was going to put a stop to Uber. Said, oh, there's just too many Uber cars in New York City. We're going to stop. We're not going to allow them to grow their business anymore. The community rose up in utter and total defiance and shut the mayor down very, very, very quickly. Because we've become so dependent on Uber in New York City that the regular population, other politicians, Uber drivers, even celebrities and folks who are backing Uber rose up and said, oh, you can't possibly do that. Uber's not really a technology company. I had an app on my smartphone 6 years ago that I could use to get Eastern Car Service, a local livery cab service in Brooklyn where I live, to bring a car to my house. You couldn't see the little car driving on the screen, and maybe it didn't tell you that the car was going to be a black Honda, but it was the same thing. What Uber did was disrupt a business. They realized that there were only 10,000 cabs in New York City, that there were 20,000 people looking for cabs at any given time, and that the quality of the cab service was terrible. Anybody ever been in a cab in New York City? They're old, they're smelly, the drivers are rude, they're playing their music, they don't care. And they don't care because they didn't have to care. Because it was a monopoly. You had to get a medallion from the New York City Office of Taxi and Livery Company, who had a restricted number of medallions that you could buy in order to have a cab. There was no competition, so they really didn't care. The value of one of those medallions was up over $1 million just 3 years ago. It's worth less than half of that now. And the group of credit unions who have loaned a lot of money to the people who bought those medallions are now suing the city of New York to try and recoup some of their investment. But all of it because, much like the compact disc, much like the idea that a network programmer could tell you what you can watch and when you can watch it and stick commercials into the middle of it, was a bloated, irrelevant, or in the words of the digital community, very, very inefficient business model. And that's what digital does. They find those inefficiencies and they blow them up. But John used the word disrupt. I'm going to use that a number of times. That's what digital is here to do, is to disrupt. The largest US companies by market cap, top 20. 8 of them are digital companies, including 3 of the top 4. One of the ones that I highlight there, Amazon, they're actually number 20. But they're growing like crazy. The fascinating thing about Amazon, a digital company, is that they've had their site set directly on Walmart for a long time. Even though they sell a lot less product and they've only been profitable twice in 8 years, by this time next year they'll be worth more money on the stock market than Walmart is. But that's not even the fastest growing part of their business. The fastest growing part of Amazon's business is what's called AWS, or their web hosting business, where they're going directly after Google. They spent $1 billion to build a smartphone, the Amazon Fire. It bombed, nobody bought it, but they tried. They decided they were going to go after Apple. The digital industry is even willing to eat their own and to go after and try to disrupt each other. The finance industry, I use Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs as examples. One of my good buddies, Nicholas, is a vice president of engineering at Goldman Sachs. I used to see Nicholas all the time. His 2-year-old daughter is a good friend with my 2-year-old kids. I never see Nicholas anymore. And the reason I don't see him is because his team, he's lost 8 people from his engineering team this month. And they're struggling to hire people. Even the financial services industry is a technology industry. High-speed trading, algorithmic buying and selling, proprietary data, security. The financial services industry is not strictly speaking a technology or a digital company, but it's become one. Really, the only businesses up there who aren't either digital companies or being totally and thoroughly disrupted by digital companies are the energy companies, the oil companies, and they're being disrupted by Tesla and others. My message to you guys here today really is twofold. One of them is that this is how digital portrays itself. This happy, nice, pretty, innovative and collaborative and creative industry. We're green and we do no harm. And wouldn't you want to come work with us to build the next cool thing? But that's not what digital is. That's what digital is. Digital is a hungry bear that looks at every other industry out there as a trash can. And whatever industry you decide to go into, you're one of that bear's trash cans. And those things that we talked about, with the music industry, with the TV industry, with the taxi industry, that digital views as inefficiencies in the marketplace, that it's going to go out and disrupt and crush. You know what those things are? Those are profits for investors and owners. Those are large organizations of happy employees with health care. That's what digital's going after. They view the inefficiencies in a very, very profitable business as a thing that they can go out and exploit. It's unbelievably aggressive, it's capitalist, it's hungry, and it doesn't stop. One of the interesting things from my 13 years at AOL, in 1999, AOL had an ARPU, a revenue per user, of $23.90 a month. Just this year, when they were acquired by Verizon, for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, by the way, still a very successful business, their ARPU is down to $1.85. That's the type of efficiencies that digital demands from every single business out there. TechCrunch Disrupt, one of the most popular conferences in the industry. It was lampooned on the Silicon Valley TV show, if any of you have ever seen that. They even name their conferences this. Nobody's trying to hide from anyone the fact that this is what the digital industry is out to do. Anybody in the room read The Innovator's Dilemma? Wow. I don't know if Sylvester would agree with me, but in my view, the single most important book about business ever written. And it was written 25 years ago. Clayton Christensen, he's actually very, very ill now, but he's a senior professor at Harvard, essentially wrote about this very topic of what he called disruptive technologies. What he was writing about, what was happening in the 70s, was about how 5-inch floppy disks crushed the companies who made 7-inch floppy disks, and sort of things that would sound really, really old school to you guys right now. But the same premise holds today. Digital technologies is a way, is an approach that in many respects defines the growth in American industry right now. This is where all of the great American companies are. How do you use digital, mobile, and social technologies to rip out the fat and the inefficiencies from other industries out there today? Whatever industry you're thinking about going into, it is under assault in one way, shape, or form by digital. I have a congenital problem with cholesterol. I meet with my doctor a lot. I meet with my doctor over FaceTime on my iPad. I did it last week. I don't have to tell any of the education folks in the room what MOOCs, or massive open online courses, mean to the future of education. It's an existential threat to what digital views as the huge inefficiencies in an extremely expensive higher education model. Today's the anniversary of 9/11. As a New Yorker in Pennsylvania, have to point out, the CIA and the NSA are very open about the fact that they actually gather more information today on Twitter than they do from actual operatives in the field. And one of their huge struggles is how to adapt to that organizationally. Talked about financial services, legal, energy, insurance. I live in the footprint of Hurricane Sandy, and it's really interesting to watch the way the insurance industry is using digital technologies to try to predict where storms are going to happen and decide how much we have to pay in insurance. Whatever industry you think you want to go into, and there's really no opportunity for you to be a digital guy like me anymore. Those days are past. But whatever industry you want to go into, if you can be the person who thinks about what disruptive digital change means for that industry, you have a unique opportunity to succeed. If you're going into an industry and you think, I can't see that bear, I don't know where that bear is coming from that's going to attack this industry, rest assured that that bear sees you. And I don't just mean the company you're going to work for, I mean you. Because not having these skill sets 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is a really, really critical weakness. Or it could be. But there's good news. There's great news. I've got my tennis shoes up there. At the executive level, chief information officers, chief technology officers, privacy officers, security officers are flourishing. Companies in every sector in our economy are hiring more and more people to take on these skills. From engineer, software developer, QA tester, UX and UI designers, data scientist is my favorite new exploding field. Big data is a fancy word that's thrown around. Analytics is something John likes to talk about. It's taking massive volumes of data and figuring out what that data means. Most businesses, number one, don't have the data. Number two, they don't know what to do about it. It's changing our industry. And there's great things about this digital industry, even though I've portrayed it as a bear. There's zero unemployment between 2008 and 2015. The country went through a massive financial crisis. There is zero unemployment amongst digitally literate white-collar professionals. You can work anywhere and everywhere in any industry you want to. I employ people in 18 states. The vast majority of them work from home, on their couch, whenever they want to, wearing whatever they want to. They don't have to drive into work, no staff meetings, they don't have to wear any suits and ties. There's tremendous upward mobility in this industry, in every industry. Because most any industry you go into is full of people like John and I. Dinosaurs, 40 and 50-somethings who don't have these skills. If you have them, and you can focus on identifying where that bear is, what they're going to do to your industry, and what you should do about it, you have the chance to be unprecedentedly successful. So you got two options, I view it. You can't be a digital guy. You can't be just about digital anymore. Those days have passed because everyone's digital. Remember Zach? He's 9. 2 computer programming languages, Chinese. You can figure out what this disruption means for your industry, or you can sit around and wait for that bear to come for you. And he will. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes for questions. You all, I know you all have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever you're creating campaigns for one of your clients, what resources have you found to be most effective and efficient when it comes to data and things like that?
You want to take that one? Or me too? In every case, it depends on what the client is trying to achieve. One of the fascinating aspects, though, is what clients who are reasonably sophisticated, what they want more than anything is the data that comes with the marketing campaign. And more, social media gives us access to more and more interesting data. So while you might be able to say that a campaign on Google or somewhere else might be more efficient in sort of old school, traditional, like cost per click metrics, something we might do on Facebook allows that campaign to generate far more interesting data for that company. And more, the data about their consumers and what they want and what they do and what they think is what businesses really, really want.
How do you guys keep up with like the constant change?
From a traditional standpoint, ongoing research. We have each of the media outlets that provide that information that we subscribe to, actually monitor how traditional media stations are performing based upon whether it's a program or specific day parts. We have access to that through what we subscribe to. From a digital end, we have analytics, we have all the information that our team is actually researching as far as what is happening on the next frontier. So not only what we have today, but also what's ahead. There's numerous platforms out there in the digital space that we can get that information from. We have a select few that we like to use in general. I know each of them really have their own favorites. So it really gets down to the person, but the information that's out there right now is incredible, and there's so much to take in. It's just a matter of where you're most comfortable getting it from. What we'll do is also provide baseline research for our clients and incorporate focus groups or other kinds of research mechanisms that keep us up to speed as far as, we have clients who think they know who their target audience is, but they could be here, and who they're really going after is here. So we employ those types of market research programs as well. So a lot of different components to it, constantly changing, and something that we try and stay on top of proactively as a buying and planning team.
I spend 2 to 3 hours a day on Twitter. I haven't tweeted probably in months, but I use it to consume information, and I follow people voraciously and aggressively. I try to read as much as I possibly can. I go to and speak at conferences at least once a month. But the best way to learn, from my view, is just do it. By having the opportunity to run digital campaigns of every flavor for all sorts of different types of businesses, we find out what works, and you see where trends are emerging and when things are better and when things are worse. Just do it. That's one of the things I mentioned before about building your own Tumblr profile, build a following on Instagram, get your expert Google AdWords certification, and start spending 10 or 20 bucks a month trying to build an audience for your Tumblr blog. Just do it. Even if you're doing it for yourself, even if there's no actual financial gain for it, do it for a foundation that you or a parent sits on a board of. Do it for somebody's company that you know. Just do it. It's incredibly available. You can start doing it this afternoon, and I would argue there's no better way to learn about this stuff than just do it.
Sounds like you're with Nike.
Yeah, well,
right?
Well, I'm going to do this.
I don't tweet. I look at the industry journals, and Adweek is one that I'll refer to a lot. I subscribe to my niche kind of publications online. So that's really, when I say customizable, finding out where you feel most comfortable getting your information from, and to James' point, just getting out there and putting it into play. Blogging is great, and LinkedIn for me has been a huge opportunity area from a recruiting standpoint, and I would encourage you to utilize that as well, even though that's even becoming more of the old kind of platform. But hey, if it works, use it, and that's where staying on top of what's happening within the industry is key.
And accept the fact that whatever you learn today will be different 2 months from now.
Correct.
I had some questions about the search engine optimization. I'm really interested in.
Everyone does.
I know this is maybe a little more specific than the other questions, but are there any examples of how you advise your customers to sort of play with the algorithms to help improve their rankings?
The best advice I would give you is don't try to play with it. Google's search algorithms, there are hundreds and hundreds of them, have been said to be the most closely protected piece of intellectual property in the history of human business. The people who work on it don't know. There's no way that anybody who runs a business is ever possibly going to figure out the ins and outs of how it works. It's not going to happen. If your goal is to make sure that, and it should be, is to make sure that you show up at the top or near the top of Google search results. There are a number of tools that you can utilize, lots and lots of folks who can help you, but trying to decipher what's going on inside Google's algorithm, especially since it's completely and totally transformed itself in the last 5 years, just isn't going to happen. That's the short answer. I'll give you a longer answer offline, but it's a challenging thing to do.
How about one more question?
When you're trying to identify the next big trend, what are some telltale signs that you look for, or do those telltale signs even exist?
What I look for, and this comes from my history at AOL, where we could see internally 3 years before AOL bought Time Warner, we could see that the business was crumbling. What I look for is I look at what things are people not doing anymore. And that's where I think really what's fascinating to me, that young people are not using Facebook anymore. In Q2 was the first quarter that cord cutting, you've heard this term, cord cutting became a real thing. Dish Network lost 115,000 subscribers just in Q2. Overall, satellite and cable television lost subscribers, almost 250,000 of them, for the first time ever. When you see something that used to be popular that people aren't doing anymore, John touched on, Apple is reaching the point where people no longer are really responding well to their new product releases. We all still are addicted to our iPhones, but the last couple releases, not so much. That's what I look at, because then you can start to say, all right, well, where's that energy going? Where's that activity going? Where's that usage going, and why?
I'll use the print industry as an example. When's the last time, I'll be honest, I haven't picked up a newspaper in probably 3 years. I get it all online now, so we look for those trends, and I actually have specific research numbers that I get based on circulation, readership, all that we take into consideration, and seeing, it's like the stock, is it going up or down? Print is an example that I refer to a lot in terms of not emerging medias, but declining medias that we need to take into consideration. And what is that replacing with? Online mobile platforms. Great question.
Okay, so how about a nice round of applause for Mr. Franklin?